Hey, good morning. It's been a long time since I posted any kind of guitar content. I did a video about Doom and about the new Doom ports that came out, and they're really, really good. And the reason that I haven't posted a guitar video in a while is because I've been busy playing the Doom ports. They are amazing. Anyway, before that I was posting videos about this. This is my SpongeBob sponge caster. Essentially the Jerry Cantrell GNL Rampage bootleg that I made out of a £30 new old stock SpongeBob Stratocaster. And very, very, very quick backstory on this. I went onto Facebook Marketplace and I found one of the guitars that I've been looking for a long time. I have been waiting ages for one of these to turn up, and it did, and it was for 30 quid, and the guy had never used it. He bought it for his niece and she didn't want it, and it's just been sat in a wardrobe for 15 years. So what I did was I took it home, took off all the black hardware, changed it out for mother of pearl. So we've got mother of pearl here. I made a acrylic backplate. I changed it out for abalone fret markers. There you go, beautiful. So it was essentially like a nautical themed. So mother of pearl, and then the pickup here, it was a black pickup with a black pickup ring, which didn't really work. So I changed it for a white one, and I put a Warman 12 gauge in there. And I wanted the white one with the black dots because it looked like his eyes. This was my first time picking up a guitar on Facebook Marketplace, and it was kind of a gamble. I didn't really know what I was going to find on there. Since then, been a bit busy. I found a few. So what I thought I would do is, I don't know whether to do them all in one video or separate them into different videos, but this was the first, but it's damn sure not the last. However, what I thought I would do today, rather than go through all of what because all of these have been heavily modded, taken apart and modded, just like this, just like the 7-string, just like everything else. In fact, I was looking today, out of all the guitars I have, which is about a dozen, I have one guitar that's stock. Like one guitar that I haven't changed anything on. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I'm going to leave these for maybe their own video or an individual video each, or I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with those. But what I want to do today is talk about my history with guitar modding. Okay, so before we have a quick look at this thing, just a very, very, very quick backstory about myself, because a lot will become clear when you hear this. Growing up, I wasn't into guitar music at all, like at all. My formative years, I was listening to a lot of East Coast rap, and sort of like jazz rap. I mean, like jazz rap in general, like kind of like old school hip hop. I was just obsessed with bands like, I say bands, like rap groups like Gangstar, specifically, The Far Side, De La Soul. Then I got really into dance music, mostly through the Prodigy. Like what I heard Prodigy Experience, and I thought, that's all right. But when I heard music for the Jilted Generation, that was it. I was like, I don't know what this is, but I want this. This is me. And I was like a kid at this time. Like this is like 1993, 94, 95, like that kind of time. It wasn't until I heard Korn, I think, it might have been Korn, that I was like, oh, this is cool. Because I'd heard things like Rage Against the Machine and whatnot, obviously because of, like the rap connection. But yeah, I think it was like Korn was the first time I was like, oh, this sounds like nothing on the radio. You got to remember that Britpop was around at the time. It was all like jangly Manchester stuff. And then along comes this band with like down-tuned 7 strings. And it sounded like an actual nightmare. Like I always equate that, and I said it in my video when I was talking about that Korn album. The first Korn album is the audio equivalent of the videotape from The Ring. Like it is unnerving and it puts you on edge and it is all lo-fi and grainy. It is insane. So yeah, I heard that and I was like, oh, I need to buy a guitar. And then when I got my first job at the age of like 15, and I was working in a place in Ilford, and a guy comes up to me and goes, do you like Korn? And I'm like, yes, I like Korn. And he goes, you should listen to this. And he handed me a tape, and it was just a copied cassette, and the only thing written on that cassette, on the little white label that you stick on yourself, was the words Around the Fur. That was it. Like, that was it. That was my entryway into Deftones and everything. Like, Alice in Chains, the lot. Like, that got me in. That was my doorway in. So yeah, so about 16, I get into guitar-based music that I know I want to play. Like, I'd heard it before, but at 16, I'm like, I need to play this. So I put a little bit of money aside from my job. And then at 17, I buy this. After having it for about 6 to 8 months, I get bored. Like, not with playing music. I love playing music. I'm using this thing all the time, like every day. I'm learning and learning and learning and learning. Mostly by ear. Like, just put the tape on and then just play it and play it and play it and play it and just figure out that, like, the various parts. Which is good, because when you're into Deftones, that's really easy. Because it's not complicated. But, so yeah. So I'm playing and playing and playing and playing, but I get a bit bored, and mostly because it looks like everyone else's. I've started buying guitar magazines, and all Strats kind of look the same. And then I'm flicking through some guitar magazines, and I start seeing some like weird custom jobs. Like they're like from the factory. They're you know, coming out of Fender and coming out of Gibson, but they've got like flames on, and they've got like this and that, and I was like, wait, you can do that? Like, that's allowed? So I'm like, well, I can do that. Like, I like art. I do not have an art qualification. Like, I failed art in school because I just didn't apply myself. So, in fact, I failed art in school and college because I just didn't apply myself. But I love art. I absolutely adore art. I love art history. I love art appreciation. I like art. My influences at the time were fairly narrow. When I was a kid, was insanely into Spider-Man. The plan was, anyway, that I was going to go to a shop, buy some acrylic paints, get a very fine paintbrush, and just paint Spider-Man on it. And that's what I did, because I had time. And I was living in a dump in Forest Gate at the time, with nothing to do except play guitar and go to work. That was my life at the time. It wasn't shortly after, but, you know. Anyway, so what I did was I painted it. This is a mid to late 90s Squire Strat. So it's very, very old. But this is what remains of that Spider-Man that I painted on it. Now, you'll notice some things that are very not stock about this guitar, and I will get to them in a minute. But let's just talk about the artwork for a minute. So again, what remains is this. And it was just literally me painting Spider-Man. Like, basically freehanding it onto the scratch plate. And, like, that's the best amount of detail I could get with a brush and freehanding it. So I painted that on, and then just got on like an acrylic, like a clear coat, essentially, over the top. So that is what I put on there. I also painted a spider logo on the top. This wasn't any particular spider logo. I was just kind of like doodling, and I made a spider logo at the top. It's all wonky, none of the legs are straight, but I like it. I think it's kind of cool. And if Peter Parker was going to make like his prototype spider thing, it wouldn't be perfect. And then the last thing I did was I took the word Squire and I turned it into the word spider. So it says Spider Strat. There. I also, while I was painting the front, also painted the back plate as well, which is over there, but I painted my wife's name on it, and that one's for me. You're not seeing that. So, yeah, so that was the genesis of the Spider Strat. Spider Strat. Spider-Man Strat. A lot of people like this guitar. A lot of people like, we're talking over the last 20 years. A lot of people are like, where did you get it? Where did you buy it? Can I buy it off you? And my answer is always no, because I did it myself. But there you go. I'm going to get into the other mods because there are quite a few. But yeah, that's the biggest, obviously. The Spider-Man, hand-painted Spider-Man on the front. The rest of these mods, I have to kind of basically reiterate. I was a kid and the internet, even though it existed, the internet wasn't really a thing yet. So I'm kind of like just trying to figure out how all this stuff works. So a lot of these mods are very, very scrappy, but they work. Like they don't look particularly good, but they work. You know, for what it's worth, I think I did a good job. So let's get into the meat of it. Strats are, for my money, basically perfect. Like, I love the shape, I love the cut, I love the fact that they are essentially a Lego kit. If a bit breaks, you just take it off and put on a new one. I like the fact that Leo Fender managed to perfect the entire shape basically second time round. Like, the telly was first, and then he just literally made the most ergonomic thing ever. And it is just, I mean, for what it's worth, it is just a tool. It's just a lump of wood and a bit of steel strapped to it. But it's perfect. Like, he absolutely nailed it. Got a belly cut here, you got the contours, it just fits the human body perfectly. Everything is where you need it. It's fantastic. Like, I don't think a better style guitar will ever be invented, especially second time round. Like, the man deserves all the credit. It was just a genius move. So, like I said before, what I like to do is take things apart and put them back together. I've done it with everything. Like, as soon as I get something, strip it apart, find out how it works. How does this work? What does this do? What's connected to that? Put it all back together. These things are designed to do that. Like, these are work tools that go out on the road, and on the road something breaks, so you just swap it out. Like, a pickup breaks, you just take it out and put it back in. Like, it's not like the old guitars of like the 30s and the 40s where it was this uniquely designed piece of artwork that would be admired and kept. Nah, this is a work tool. Like, this needs to be like ready for anything. So if something breaks, whip it out, put on a new one. If one of these machine heads breaks, whip it out, put on a new one. You know what I mean? It's perfect. So yes, the Fender Strat is amazing. Took it apart and realized that none of these parts, other than like the odd ground wire, like none of these parts are really connected. Like, you can take any part off and put anything on. So I did. And I did a lot of it with literally spray paint. You got to remember that me doing things on a budget isn't something new. It's always been my thing. Like, all of my electronics projects, the guitar projects, everything. How can I do it as cheaply as possible and as effectively as possible? And if I'm not selling it and I'm the only person that sees it, who cares? If I think it looks good and I'm the only person using it, what does it matter if it's really good or not, or perfect in any way? So a lot of the black hardware you see on here, it's car paint. Like, and this is like 25-year-old car paint as well, so it's not bad. So the trim system, like you can see all along here, it's worn. Like, all the paint has worn off where obviously, you know, palm muting and whatnot. But like the bits that you can't touch, they're fine. They're still black. The jack as well, black. This is worn. Like, you can see this is worn because obviously putting the strap on, I don't play with the strap anymore. I haven't played with the strap for like decades. But like, when you put the strap on and strap off, like, the paint wears. But yeah, it's just car paint. It's literally just car paint. The neck plate as well, car paint. And you can tell under the back, see where it started to, you can see the chrome coming through. Because again, it wears when you come down here. So as I'm pulling down here, it's wearing, but yeah, it's just car paint. Just car paint. The machine heads are actually black machine heads. I tried spray painting the machine heads and managed to gunk them up with paint. So I needed to replace the machine heads. I thought Again, at the time, this is me learning. All machine heads were universal. They're not. And some are slightly wider than others. So I needed to drill out new holes. So I got these from a shop, and I was like, will this fit a Strat? It was like, yeah, it'll fit a Strat. They'll fit a Strat. Don't worry. They didn't. So they were slightly wider. The actual post was slightly wider. So what I needed to do was drill out new holes for these posts. So I figured that if I ran the drill backwards, this is where I first learned you can actually run a drill backwards into soft wood, and it makes a much cleaner cut than if you were drilling it forward. Because if it's soft wood and you drill into it, it's just going to rip all the wood out and chip it and damage it. If you run it backwards, it's fine, it just goes through. So these are new black machine heads. I don't know why I went black. I just went black all over. I think it was because this was black and this was black, because I had leftover black paint, but I was like, black looks really cool. Again, I'm, like 17, like, yeah, black is cool. So I just went black, and black back here. And that was all like the hardware mods that I did, except for I didn't like the whammy bar. I don't like trem systems. I still don't like trem systems. I'd never use a tremolo, ever. Never have, never. I think the only time I've ever used a tremolo, ever, was when I learned Possum Kingdom by the Toadies. Like, if you know that song, you know why I was using the tremolo. That's the only time I will ever need a tremolo, because I just don't use it. So again, backwards engineering. I wanted to know how to make this not move. And I couldn't screw into the body, like through the thing, because there's not quite enough room. And I couldn't put a screw in here because there's nothing underneath it. So I do what I always did, take it apart, and I put on a piece of wood. And I was like, that rocks forward. So if I push it forward, I can just jam anything in there. So I found a little bit of leftover timber in the flat where I was staying, and literally just sawed it off, put it in, and it just says, I don't know why I wrote bite me on it. Yeah, it says bite me. But again, this is before the internet. I didn't know what blocking off a trem was. I thought I was the first person to ever do this. You know what I mean? It's like when you don't know and you just have to figure it out, and then you realize that you've been doing the thing that everyone's been doing since like the 50s. But yeah, so this is now like had I have known, I maybe would have given it a bit more room, because this, I think to take this off now, I would need to unscrew up here, pull these out just to get that out. It is insanely tight in there. Plus there might also be some of that like acrylic base gone in there, because it looks all gooey. The one last thing I did, and I did this later, I did this when I was about, I'm gonna say I was about 18, 19 when I did this last bit, was this here. And this is gonna be really hard to focus in on. But again, there's the nut, spray painted black, but obviously the paint has come off on the bottom. There you go. So the paint's come off on the bottom, so you can just see the plastic nut. But what is going on there? Right, you see that? See the way it pokes over? What is going on with that? And when I explain it to you, you might understand. There you go. Look at that. Look, right here. What is this? There you go. What is that? Well, like I said, I was learning the entire Nirvana song catalogue. I wanted to learn every single one of their songs. And then I wanted to learn every single one of the Deftones songs as well. I couldn't play Korn on it. Like, that was just not going to happen. Like, I learned the high bits of Korn, like the Freak on a Leash and stuff like that, like a little bit later. But the problem I was having was that I tried to put heavier gauge strings on it. When you put them on, I just assumed that the thicker the string, the deeper it sounded. Like, I didn't know how it worked. But I was like, okay, well, if I'm taking the tuning and tuning it down, especially when you down tune to songs like Blue, or when you play Blue off of Bleach, like that's in drop C. Like that is twangy on here. And I think I was using 10s at the time. So it's like really, really, really twangy. So I was like, right, I need thicker strings. I can't take these strings. They're like, every time you do it, it's like tap, 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 twangy, twangy, twangy. Got some thicker strings on there. But the problem I had was I'm quite a hard, like I really dig in. Like really, really, really dig in. So when I did that, the string used to go bong, pull off the top. It used to come off the side of the fretboard. Not a lot, but it was just slipping the nut. And I tried cutting into the nut and I was getting way more fret buzz. Like way more fret buzz. So I repaired the cut into the nut with a little bit of super glue. And then I got the idea, well, what if instead of putting the string down, what if I just made the nut extend up over it? And that's where I came up with the idea of this. What I got was a tile spacer. Again, you can tell I was living in, it was a dump, but it wasn't the flat share that I was living in at the time. I was about 18. The flat share that I was living in was also being built at the same time. Wasn't great. There was quite a few of us living in there and it was a dump, but they all had building materials. Like there was building materials everywhere. So I got the wood and I got some tile spacers. What I did was I took the tile spacer. If you don't know what a tile spacer is, it's like a little cross. And what I did was I took off the top of the cross and the side of the cross, so you're left with like basically like a piece of plastic on a right angle. Glued that onto the top and then filed it so it's now a nice little curve. So that is a tile spacer. There you go. That is a tile spacer over the top. And all it does is it just rests against the top E string so it doesn't twang out of the nut. So yeah, I can dig in really hard and the string doesn't go boing out of the nut. And it works. I know it looks goofy, but it works. And it's never snapped off. Like I go down there with my thumb. I'm one of the guys that like Slash like puts his thumb over the fretboard like and mutes like the top E all the time with my thumb. And it's never snapped off. Like it works. It's a really, really, I don't know, it's novel. The pickups are stock. All the wiring is the same as it was. Sounds great, by the way. I plugged this in today. Sounds great. The last thing that I did was I took a hacksaw and hacksawed off the pots here. Filed them all down, so they're literally just nubs. And I'm not going to lie, the only reason I did that is because Strat knobs covered up the paintwork. Like Strat knobs covered up the design. And I didn't want it messing with my design. So I just filed them off. And I figured, I don't use the volume knob. I don't use the tone knobs. I've never used tone knobs, ever. Ever. In fact, when I mod my guitars like these, if it's got a tone knob, I turn that into a volume knob. So if I've got individual pickups, even if I've got a pickup selector, if I've got individual pickups, I will always turn my tone knob into volume knobs for the other pickups. Because I don't use tone knobs. If you've got an EQ pedal, or even if you've got like a really, when I had that crappy practice amp, like 10 watt practice amp, just use that. Like, why would I need a tone knob? Strats sound good. Like, if you want a really good Strat sound, you don't need to use the tone knob. You need to do this. There you go. Now you've got a really good Strat sound, and you want a really good, there you go. Now you've got another really good Strat sound. You've got 5 to pick from. If you can't find anything you like out of those 5, that's really not going to help. So get rid of it. This is, again, me thinking as a, young, very young person at the time. So yeah, hacksawed those off. And the way I use it is I actually cut a little, which is worn off now, but I actually just cut a little cross into each of them. So if I did want to use it, I can still use it. You just push your thumb in and turn it and it just moves. So yeah, that was the Spider Strat. That still is my very first guitar and one that I am very proud of and I will never ever get rid of. I love this thing. It's gone through hell. It's gone through several moves. It's gone through several kids. But yeah, it still works and it still sounds great. It's got some scratches. It's got some dings. Like we've got dings over here and we've got like a giant scratch in the paintwork down here. But I am a firm believer. Like guitars for me, it's a soft wood, right? And it's a soft material. I believe that we are also made of like quite soft material, and guitars scar. Like they get beat up, they get chips, they get scars, they get scratches. I don't believe in hiding your scars. I believe in showing them. I don't think you should hide your scars. Much like humans, I don't believe that guitars should hide their scars, because like humans, scars tell a story. So I can tell you that this big scratch here, my wife did. She opened a sliding wardrobe, straight through, the paint came off, and it made it into like, you know, like in a cartoon where something like gets scratched and it turns into like a roll. Like it just scratches out and it just rolls up the paint. So it had this big spiral of paint there. I remember that. That's a memory. Now, if I covered up this and like buffed it all out and whatnot, I wouldn't remember that. I wouldn't remember that story. And if when my kids get this after I'm gone, they wouldn't know. Like, but there's a scar there. That's literally, that scar is a memory. So I don't believe in covering them up. I believe in showing your scars. So yeah, that is the Spider Strat. That was my very first journey into guitar modding. And like I said, I was modding guitars before I even knew what guitar modding was. All I knew is that I wanted to play guitar because I wanted to sound like those tapes and like those CDs that I heard. So I bought one. And I wanted it to not be the same. Like when I started buying guitar magazines, I wanted my guitar to not look like theirs, because they all look the same. I wanted mine to look different. And I don't think I did a bad job, because there is only one of these, and it's mine. And that is the same principle that I have kept through this entire journey, all the way through to these. So what I think I'm going to do is, now you sort of like know the history and, you know, where I come from. The same rules that applied to this 24, 25 years ago, the same theories and the same principles that apply to this apply to all of those. And what I really needed to do was put my money where my mouth was. When I got the sponge caster over here, I was like, oh yeah, it's great. You know, Facebook Marketplace is a real gold mine. You never know what you're going to find. And to a certain extent, that is still true. That is very, very true. There are some amazing guitars in there that go for insanely cheap prices. There's a lot of junk. There's a lot of sewage on there. Once you wade through that, there are some just gold nuggets in there. So I decided to put money where my mouth was. I went back on there, and I've obviously found some things that I consider gold. They're not great, but I consider them absolutely amazing. And I'm also selling stuff on there as well. So I wanted to get both perspectives, the purchasing perspective and the selling perspective. And it has been a journey. So I don't know whether to chronicle all of that in one video or separate it into different videos. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. But for now, all I wanted to do was just say, I want to talk about these and what I've done to these. But to understand these, you need to understand this. Because this is literally the Rosetta Stone to all of those. If you can understand the theories and the thinking behind something like this, you'll understand what I've done with these. All right, cool. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.